not in excess of rupees 1 crore, but cannot be more than 10 crore. Excess of 10 crore should not be there. And again, the holding and the subsidiary. This is the second organization categorization. Number 3, third level entities are those entities which are not covered either by level 1 or level 2. They are not covered by any of the levels till we have discussed. Mean this is not applicable on the small and medium enterprises, one person company, or yes.
No baby. Accounting standards for us. बहुत गंदा टाइम है यार इन लोग का 1:30 से 4:30.
If we are moving in that way, now we have a list of different accounting standards.
कुछ गैप दे दिया करें आधे घंटे का फिर दूसरी क्लास करें कि जो ठूसना ठूस
Excuse me, Shweta ji.
बैठा रहेगा कैसे.
Excuse me. So when we are talking about the different enterprises, now we talk about the standards. Now I'm coming to the exact topic, what we have to discuss. I think I made clear what are the accounting standards, why we have to frame them, and what are the different enterprises. So first, as per your syllabus, as per the requirement, the first accounting standard that we have to discuss is regarding the disclosure of accounting policies. That is a disclosure of accounting policies as per accounting standard 1. Rather than jumping directly on what accounting policies are and what the disclosure is, the main thing what every organization has to keep in mind is there should be consistency in the policies. Consistency in accounting policies. If your policies are not consistent, it will bring so many fluctuations in the results of the organization that it will become very difficult for the user as well as for the management to actually reach out the exact figure. Whether they are performing well or they are losing somewhere or they are facing some losses or uncertainties due to the non-follow. So it is always there. There should be one consistent policy that organization have to follow, so that whatever the results we are getting from year to year, they can be easily comparable. So for that, this disclosure of accounting policy standard has been introduced. For a simple case, if we say if accounting policies are varying from one organization to organization, then it will become difficult to compare the result of two even. You cannot compare the result because both are following the different rules and regulations. That's why this accounting standard has been framed that every policy, that accounting policy the companies are going to follow, that should be consistent. Everybody who is an outsider to the information can easily judge the performance of the organization on the basis of this, and they are disclosing their accounting policy and they are following this standard in a proper manner. So they, before going to follow these accounting policies of disclosure, we have to concentrate on certain assumptions. That assumptions are actually accounting concepts. You people are well aware of all these things, but that accounting concepts has to be used to have the consistency. Like number one, the which assumption every organization has to take, or what the accounting standard has assumed, is the concept of going concern. Going concern concept means that the company will continue operations for you can say for foreseeable future. We have discussed that we have started a business, it will run for another 10 years. That is a foreseeable. We can see that if our business will be there. That is the basic aim, that why we are always keeping our assets for to be carried forward for future, and why the deferred revenue expenditure like advertisement, all that, if we incur in an organization, we still use it as our asset, which is to be disposed of in the coming years in the form of written off to the profit and loss account. It means we have one intention, that business is not going to be closed down very next year, or the scale of production is not going to be reduced, right? So on that assumption, this principle of disclosure is based. This is the first assumption that has been based for accounting standard framing of one. Second one is consistency. The other assumption or the concept which we are going to use is the consistency. Means if frequent changes are taking place in the policies of the organization, then the changes that will be taking place are not easily adjusted. Right? तो company expect क्या करती है from the management, and what the shareholders expect, what the stakeholders expect, what the investors expect, or the prospective shareholders expect is that there should not be frequency of changing. Because if the frequency of changing policy is applied in an organization, there will always be a fluctuation in the results. And that fluctuation may lead to many problems in the mind of the stakeholders about the reputation of the organization. That this organization cannot be believed as to be the with credibility that we should invest in such organization. Because we are not aware how to compare the past with the present and how to compare the present situation with the future. Because they have no stagnant policy to be followed. Then the third one is, the third assumption we are going to use for this accounting standard is accrual. Accrual concept, that means that whenever the revenues and the costs are incurred, they are recorded then and there. We are not concerned whether we are making the payment or we are not making the payment. But we are concerned, yes, this transaction has taken place, whether on cash basis or on credit basis, we have to take into account both of the things at the simultaneous level. That's why it is called the accrual. So we have to denote it in the same period in which actually they incur. Now come to your part of if you go for accounting standard disclosure, and you are going to take it as a topic for your research, how will you proceed in it? For any of you, if you proceed, first of all, rather than jumping directly to the accounting policies or the accounting standard say that there should be the disclosure of accounting policy. Rather than explaining it directly, the best way to write it down is that first you discuss कि accounting standards are to be followed just to ensure the conformity and the uniformity among the working of the different kind of organizations. Number two, then second you have to explain that it is applicable to all kind of enterprises, whether that enterprises are defined under level 1 or level 2 or level 3. Mean every organization has to follow the policy. This would be your second frame. Now when you find out the objectives, the hypothesis you have to take, you can go in this way that the particular company, whichever you have taken for study, is following this accounting standard in the real sense or not. For that, you have to make the comparison of their financial statement of the present with the past. Starting from one particular year, like right now it's going on 2022. Let's starting your research in the next month. So you can take last 10 years data to compare if there is any consistency in the policies the company is following, like in depreciation, in the valuation of stock, or there are certain variation, and what is the impact of that variation. So for that, you have to decide, yes, the company is going through the three basic assumptions, that it is recording all the transaction on the basis of accrual. Consistency is there. Company is not changing its policy frequently, because variation should not be there in the results. And third thing that you have to follow, that the company is working from last so many years. It means the going concern concept is working, and still we are having certain assets or expenses at our disposal, which is to be carried forward for the future. So this is just the basic of what you have to write. Now we are moving to next part. When we talk about accounting policies, what are exactly the accounting policy? Policy word, I have used the word accounting policy, disclosure of accounting policy as per accounting standard 1. Now I'm talking about only the term policy. This policy means the principle or the methods that a company is going to adopt in the preparation of its financial statements. This is the method one organization opted for, and the organization is using as a principle to give the final shape to its financial statements before they are presented to the outside world. So these are, if the circumstances are different in which the organization are operating, they can make alternate accounting principles which are acceptable to the others also. But as per Indian accounting standard, it is a combined effort which has been resulted from the government and then by the ICAI to frame certain policies which we have to follow in consistent level. There are certain areas where the policies can differentiate. We cannot say that every company is following the same policies. I'm listing out certain areas that are the areas where the accounting policies differences can take place. One company is following one method, another company is following another method. But in the note, they will explain, they will tell the stakeholders that why they are opting this policy and what policy they are actually opting for the treatment of these items in their financial statement. The first one is depreciation. Depreciation is not an expense for an organization to be shown in the profit and loss account, but it is shown as the decrease in the value of asset with the usage of the asset or with the passage of time. It is not an expense which is to be paid to somebody else, but it is a kind of reserve accumulation that we maintain so that in future when we have to replace our asset, we have certain funds in our disposal which we can use to make the payment for that asset, or we can grab that asset for that. So these policies can be different for the different organizations. Some companies may be using fixed method of depreciation. Some companies may be using fluctuating method of depreciation. But as per Income Tax Act 1961, the companies must have to use written down value method for the depreciation charging so that they can claim depreciation as an expense from the income they have given. Number 2, treatment of expenditure when the construction work is going on. Mean you are in a stage of construction. When the business is being building up. In that cases, whatever expenses you have incurred, उन expenses का treatment जो है that can vary from organization to organization. That how organization is dealing with those expenditure, but they have to mention in their accounting report what method they have opted, what treatment they have given to such expenses before the start of the business. Then conversion of foreign currency items. Sometimes we apply the rate which is applicable on the date of transaction. Sometimes we apply the rate at the closing date or at the opening date. It depends upon organization. So you have to disclose. You still have to tell, even though the different companies can follow different method, but they have to explain what method they have opted for the resultant policies. Then valuation of inventories. Believe we have the second topic to be discussed is the valuation of inventories also, but still companies can have different ideas for the different valuations. Some companies are going for inventories on FIFO basis, some are going on LIFO basis, some are on average, some are on weighted average. So it depends upon the organization, what type of raw material actually we are putting into, what type of inventories we are having in our control, what inventories we are using in our business. On the basis of that, we are going to evaluate the inventories. Then, regarding the goodwill treatment, some people say that goodwill is to be treated as an asset. It's okay. It is an asset because it is shown on the asset side of the balance sheet, but their treatment may vary from organization to organization. It's not only the reputation of the organization, it has to be affected by other factors also. And for the different companies, different factors have the impact on their goodwill valuation. Then, treatment of retirement benefits, like how the retirement benefits are to be treated. Mostly it will go for the organization, like when we talk about partnership. Then profit on long-term contracts. If the contract business is going on, how we are going to treat the profit? What policy we are going to adopt for the profit, which is known beforehand, before we start the exercise. Then fixed assets valuation. Some companies are performing their fixed assets or showing their fixed assets on the basis of historical cost. Some are showing in the keeping in mind the revaluation of the fluctuation in the market. So it depends upon them. Then the contingent liabilities, even though they have no impact, but even then we cannot exclude them from our financial statement. So these are the 10 areas which one should be ready to face the deviations from organization to organization. Every organization is not going to follow the same way of treatment as we are discussing in the concept of accounting policy. The consistency will be the requirement, but the method adopted by the organization can be different. What is the criteria of selecting accounting policy? Now we have discussed accounting policies, assumptions, and the areas where the valuation can take place. Excuse me. Now we are going to deal with I am dealing with accounting standard 1, that is regarding the disclosure of accounting policies. Disclosure of accounting policy, we are moving in the same way. I'm not deviating from the topic, right? Am I clear? So when the disclosure is there, we have decided now we have to think as an organization what accounting policies we should adopt. For that, we have certain criteria or we can keep certain conditions. Like what are the application and the selection process we can use for the opting of one particular accounting policy for one particular head. Number 1, prudence. It is one of the you can say conventions of accounting. Prudence says what? Ki whenever a business is being run, whenever you are adopting a policy in the business, always try to anticipate only losses. You should opt only that policy which will help you to see the unforeseen future by anticipating the losses. You just anticipate losses. How much loss can take place? What are the changes can that take place in the product demand or in the sales of the product? But you will never ever go for the future anticipation of profits. Never ever expect, never ever try to use a policy to find out the profit. What can happen in future? So we are using only those policies which help us to find out the losses, anticipating the losses. But they are not the correct one. They are just the estimations. They are just the estimations, not the proper losses, not the exact amount of losses. Second thing is materiality. Second thing, what we have to keep in our mind, keep the material items, right? which can influence our decision making. Only facts that have direct impact on our decision. Only those things should be disclosed in the financial statement. These items are known as the materialistic items. Materiality concept has to be used. These are the 2 points you have to keep in mind. The third thing that we have to consider while adopting any accounting policy is substance over substance. The third term I am using is substance. Substance is simply the treatment of what is happening in the event or in the transactions. It means they are not shown in the books because they are legally required. They should be shown because they have a certain impact on the business. They have substance. If they are there, they have certain impact, maybe positive or negative. Substance is must, not because it is required legally. You have to show anything in the form of accounting policies, which you are going to opt. Right? Now, जब आप अपनी financial statements complete कर लेते हो, once your financial statements are complete, then we have to go for the other thing. The other thing is disclosure of accounting policies. This would be the last thing. Disclosure of the accounting policies mean whatever adopted by an organization. What are the different policies we have adopted in an organization? Number 2, policies used frequently by company. Okay, this is the policy we are using from the long term, right? Any change, if you have adopted any change, then you have to mention why that change is required, why we are going to shift from one policy to another policy. So if you follow all these things, there will be a proper disclosure of accounting policies in financial accountancy concept. When we are going to prepare the financial statements, or you are going to prepare, or you are going to check the performance of any organization, the first thing that you have to keep in your mind is whether the company is following accounting standard 1 or not. If it is following the accounting standard 1, then what are the policy actually it has adopted? Is it disclosing or not in the business or in the financial statements? Or if it is making any change, अगर उसका कोई भी materialistic impact है, will that impact be shown, or in the current period or expected change will be there? So we have to disclose all these items one by one in our disclosure concept. This is how you will write it down in your, you can say, in your article. You can also use it, that how the accounting standard has been followed by the organizations, and which are the organizations that are following exactly what is written in the accounting standard 1, or are there any changes they are opting, and are they actually giving that information of changes to the participants or to the shareholders or stakeholders or not. This is what is accounting standard 1. Any query from your side? Any query from your side or not? Is the things clear? Have you got the idea what you have to mention in accounting standard 1? You can write in the chat box, please. If you have any query, then you can ask, or we can start with the next standard. Students, if you have any query, you are most welcome, beta. You can ask. और एवरीथिंग इज क्लियर टू यू. मैं क्या समझूं इन दोनों चीजों में से? और नथिंग इज क्लियर. दोनों चीजें हो सकती हैं, प्लीज.
Ma'am, you continue. Everything is clear.
आई कैन कंटिन्यू.
Yeah, ma'am.
किसी की कोई क्वेरी नहीं है, एकता?
No, ma'am.
द टॉपिक इज क्लियर टू ऑल ऑफ यू?
Yes, ma'am. You can continue. No issue, ma'am.
Okay, fine enough. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am.
So class, as per your directive, I am going to start with the second standard of accounting, that is accounting standard number 2, which is again applicable. Its applicability is for all the enterprises, right? It will be applied to all organizations जो मैंने तुम लोगों को define की हैं. Valuation of inventories, it is already revised nowadays. So we are discussing accounting standard 2. Accounting standard 2. This accounting standard directly deals with the valuation of inventories. Any one of you, what is inventories here mean? What do you understand by inventories? If you won't ask, I will start asking questions.
Ma'am, inventory means whatever which is we can say stock which is maintained by the any businessman for procuring their business and running for business. This is called inventory.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone explain anything else? The first thing you have to keep in your mind that we are talking about the accounting standard 2, which is applicable to all the entities, all 3-level entities. So as Ekta has already said, what inventory is? Inventory is nothing but a stock which a company is going to maintain, and you know very well that whatever stock we are maintaining, it will have huge impact on our business. Correct or not?
Yes, ma'am.
It will have a huge impact because if you are carrying more inventory, it means your funds have been locked and you may incur losses because of the fall in the prices in the future. Will that there or not?
Yes, ma'am.
So the inventory is a type of closing stock maintained by the organization, keeping in mind it will always have huge impact on the revenues as well as the asset. Am I correct in saying this term? It is having impact on revenue of an organization, and it will also have an impact on the assets of the organization. Yes?
Yes,
Hello?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain? Can you give me one good reason why we treat it as a revenue impact and why we treat it as an asset impact? Whatever you know, don't feel offended. We are just making you have to be very comfortable with me. Shalini, can you explain better? Any one of you? You always treat closing stock in your trading account. Correct? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
When you treat it in the trading account, it means it is a revenue. When you put the same amount in the balance sheet asset side under the current assets heading, mean it is have an impact on the assets also. So this is how the things are moving. The stock is not only the amount we are keeping with us, but it has an impact on the both the statements, whether it is a revenue statement or it is an assets of an organization. So moving ahead, what exactly is the valuation of inventory and what we can skip out of it? When we are talking about the valuation inventory, we will not include WIP, that is work in progress. We will not include the work in progress in case of the construction business, right? ये service contracts होते हैं, और business of service sector like banking and insurance, shares and debentures held as a stock in trade, or livestock. These should not be treated for inventories valuation as per accounting standard. Am I clear? Which is not to be taken as inventory? Or shall I repeat?
मैम only financial statements लिए जाते हैं.
Yeah, we will not take the livestock which is there. We will not take the construction business work in progress. We will not take the services sectors because that they are just providing the consultancy provide. And then we will not treat even the other things, just my forest products and all that. We are just talking about the closing stock which is company is having with us. So what is exactly the inventory is as per accounting standard 2, जिसको we can say it's a definition. As per accounting standard 2, what is inventory? Number 1, inventory mean that is the material or the stock which is held for sale. Held for sale in normal course of business. I mean, I'm talking about finished goods. Correct? Normal course of business means finished goods that we are going to sell in future. Number 2, goods. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm talking goods which are in progress. Goods, not the construction business. I'm talking about the goods which are in progress of production. Work in progress. Work in progress. Number 3, raw material. This is that raw material which is going to be consumed during the production process or for rendering any kind of service. So these are the 3 normal terms which we explain while we tell what inventory is. Inventory is a stock of finished goods that we are going to sell in future. It is a stock of work in progress. These are the goods which are still in production. And third is the raw material consumed for the production of the goods and services for future purpose. Is it clear? Second part, what definition we have to use? We have to use a term net realizable value, NRV. Valuation means value. Valuation of stock means value is net realizable value. Net realizable value stands for this is the amount that we are going to fetch in future. This is our estimated value. The price we are going to fetch in the future from the particular goods in the sale in the open market. These are the 2 words, valuation and inventory. Now, actual treatment in accounting, financial accounting. What is the treatment actually we are going to go for as per accounting standard 2? Treatment क्या होगा? Number 1, whatever you have used in your accounting process, उसी की बात कर रही हूँ. The stock should be valued at. There is always given the 2 values at lower cost and net realizable value. It is to be valued at lower cost or net realizable value. How we go for this? At lower cost and net realizable value, कैसे हम लोग find out करते हैं valuation करने के लिए? Number 1, the first thing, we have to calculate the cost of the inventory. At what price the inventories has been purchased by us. Number 2, we want to know the net realizable value, mean expected value from the selling the same in the due course of business in future. Then comparing the 2 and the lower of the 2. इन दोनों में जो least होगी value, least of cost or realizable value will be taken as value of inventory. Will be taken as value of inventory. Clear? Yes? You got this? Is it clear, bacha? Then the cost of inventory, the term I have used cost. What exactly the cost stands here? Cost of inventory. What is cost of inventory? It includes number 1, purchasing cost, the price at which we have actually purchased the material, then its conversion. What is the cost we have incurred in converting the raw material into the goods? or the finished goods. Number 3, other costs that are incurred, the other costs that are incurred in a relating to that. Okay? In a relating to inventory. In relating to inventory means to present location, to bring that raw material into the present state of mind. Whatever expenses we have incurred, that is also to be included. So this is the cost of inventory. When you talk about this part, purchasing cost, cost of purchase, it includes whatever taxes, duties you have paid on the purchase of raw material, except the price of the product, including the different freight, which is freight inward only. That is to be included, which are directly included expenditure like loading, unloading, that is to be taken into account. Even the trade discount and the rebates or duty drawbacks, they all has to be considered, right? Only then you can calculate or you can find out the purchasing cost of the material. Purchasing cost include all the 4 ingredients into it. Number 1, the purchase cost plus duties and taxes that you have paid. Number 2, the freight inwards while bringing that goods to your place. Number 3, other expenses that are directly attributable to state like loading, unloading and all that. Then trade discount or any kind of rebate or duty which is concerned with this. That is to be taken into account. This part. Now we talk about conversion cost. What conversion cost is? It is the cost of production process. Production process means whatever we have paid to the different resources or to the different factors of production for converting the raw material into the present state. Whatever expenses we have incurred, that is to be taken for conversion cost. You always remember conversion cost में different categories होंगी. जैसे direct cost. Direct cost coming, which are directly related with the production, which you can see from the product itself. Then fixed overhead cost, which remain fixed irrespective of your production. How many units you are producing, fixed cost will always be there. You have to incur that cost. It has nothing to do with the volume. Then variable overhead cost, which varies directly with the production. As you increase your production, your variable costs like labor or the other expenses, they are keep on increasing. They have direct impact or relationship with the volume. Then the other expenses like designing cost or drafting cost or the cost of checking or the byproducts and that finished products को check करने के लिए abnormal raw material all that. This will be taken into account. These are the other costs that we have to consider. After considering all the 3 factors, now the method of inventory valuation arises. आपके पास specific project होगा. Specific project means you are dealing with only one organization, so you have to check in that organization inventory consists of what? Only the finished goods, or if it is a trading unit, then it will be only a finished goods. If it is a producing organization or a manufacturing unit, then it will be having 3 lakhs of inventory. One is in the raw material form, another is which is work in progress. We are still in the production part, and third will be the final product or the finished goods, which we are having to be sold in the market. So keeping in mind all the 3, then we find out the cost. Now, going to first principle, accounting standard number 1. Accounting standard में we have to disclose कि what are the costs we have used, what we have included in the right, and how the inventory is being carried. We have to disclose all these things in the financial statements. Then only we can reach at the particular method. If we want to change our method, then you have to make the appropriate changes in your financial statement and to disclose the same to your stakeholders. Why you are going to change the method, like opening inventory valuation, or you are going to make the changes in the final products. Whatever changes you are making, you have to explain that to the stakeholders. Yes. Anything? Anything from your side? Any addition or subtraction? Anything you won't understand? Anything you need an example for? Case study, case let, whatever. If you won't ask, how could I understand? You got the idea, you understood the concept or not?
No, ma'am, no question. Please continue, please.
Anyone else? Anything? No? Okay, fine enough. My voice is not coming. Uska reason hai beta. When you have no queries, how will we move? It seems like that you are not enjoying the class, or you're not understanding the concept, or you're not really ready to read out all these topics. Sorry, but I'm not that kind of teacher who can accept, yeah, I'm keep on speaking and you're not even asking a single query. You have no question
Actually,
because
ma'am,
you're looking
no,
for
no, ma'am.
PhD.
Actually, I want to say something, ma'am. Actually, uh, you're definitely right, but really there is no query because it's topic revised in MCOM section also, and every time it's revised. So again and again it's a repeated topic. Accounting
I mean, it
standard,
is
don't
quite
mind.
boring to study all
So
these
no, no,
topics.
no, this is not boring, but concept is already, some concept is already clear, so there is no mention very deep study for the
Okay, do
accounting
one thing,
standard.
Ekta. Okay, okay. I have just told your sir that right now, I'm just leaving the class. 1 hour is over because with this speed, I will carry on. I will finish all the accounting standard right today because you are not asking anything. So I'm not finding it very interactive. So please, for next class, be prepared with certain practical problems or something. If you feel like doing practical, you can tell me. Ki, ma'am, yes, we can go with the practical problems, like we have to discuss the accounting relating to the depreciation. Depreciation part is there, or the fixed asset treatment is there, or the contingencies are there. The all the
Ma'am,
five things.
I have a humble request to you.
Yeah.
Please explain some revised standard, which is totally maintained and developed by ICI in 2019 to
Beta,
21.
it is
Revised
the
standard.
including everything is there. It is not
Yeah,
any
ma'am.
more changes haven't they introduced. Practically, they haven't introduced. Okay, I will try to inculcate more information, but please,
Yes,
it's a
ma'am.
request, humble request to all of you. If you won't participate, it will be quite boring. One-way traffic is not good. At least for me, it is not. Thanks. Anyhow, thank you for joining us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, ma'am.